So, when I was younger, I had an A. It was an unwanted pregnancy where I wasn't in a great financial or mental state to look after a child, nor did I want to give an unwanted baby up for adoption, just for them to wonder why did their birth mom abandon them. Anyway, in my family, I have an older brother who's several years older than me and is married to this bat-crap crazy woman named Laura. Now, Laura is very religious. Not gonna say which religion, cause I don't want them to be hated, but I'm pretty sure people have a good guess on what it is. Laura, being a crazy religious woman, she likes to preach about her religion with every chance she gets. She also loves children, and think A is basically a sin. So I'm pretty sure you get the idea of who the craphead is in this story. So 6 years back, when Laura wasn't hated by the family, in fact, we all really liked how chill she was and how funny her stories were. So, as I was drinking with her, we decided to ask deep questions to get to know each other. One thing led to another, and I told her I had an A before. She then proceeded to screech how terrible that was and condemned me for it. So, this is when the fun began. She told every single living being she came across on how much of a terrible person I was and that I hated children. She's sorta right, cause I am very uncomfortable being around little fleshy living beings whom I cannot communicate with properly. But I don't hate them. She spread lies on her theories on how I'm mean to children, or how I deny my duties of continuing the family bloodline. That I also deny a higher-up being to be a part of my life because I refuse to let an angel be born on earth, and that I am to be pitied for it. So on that very year, which was about 5 years ago, on Christmas, she bought me newborn baby clothes. In my family, we don't label who the gifts are from. We just write who it's for. So Laura thought she could get away with it since she didn't write her name on it. We all knew. Everyone knew. Even my unborn nephew from my other sister-in-law knew. Also, because when I opened the gift, she was the only one who exclaimed how much of a great present that was and that it might be a sign and great blessing for my family. Everyone else was dead silent and uncomfortable. I've been ignoring her for the past 5 years, since I don't interact with her much, only on special occasions. But I know of every single crap she has said about me behind my back, mainly cause she said them to my family, thinking they won't say anything to me. For my birthdays, she would always try to get her way in and give me uncomfortable baby presents. Or when someone in the family has a kid, she'll make comments to me how potentially it could be me one day in that position, and I'll know I will appreciate my life even more as a mother. She even claimed that she prays for me every day to one day to open my eyes and repent for the huge sin I have committed and to make up for it by having plenty of angels. When I tell her to stop forcing her ideal happiness on me, she would cry that I'm a poor unfortunate soul who doesn't understand anything. Also, one time I did snap at her because of how annoyed I was with her, and she cried to everyone about how much of a terrible person I was, but didn't really work out since everyone knew what she was doing. This year, for Christmas, guess what I got? I got a children's book that helps 5-year-olds, multiple of them. The thing is, I got a bit petty with Laura because of how much crap she's been throwing at me for the past 5 years, so I became a tiny tad bit petty and gave her something special for Christmas. The thing is, Laura is infertile, and she and my older brother can't have kids, which caused Laura to become pretty depressed about. So, for Christmas, I gave her a special gift. I gave her back all the presents she's given me for the past 5 years, all the baby clothes, toys, books, and motherhood crap. I gave it all back with a little card. It was a generic picture of a happy mother with her newborn, and it says, "This will be you one day." Then she proceeded to break down and cry about how terrible I am. She's right, I am. After Christmas, she would tag and comment about me on how I should repent for my sinful ways on Facebook. So far, I've been enjoying her reaction. Just waiting for next year Christmas, cause it's gonna be a blast once she finds out how gay as duck I am when I bring my girlfriend over. Edit. For some people curious about my silent brother in the story, he and I have always been on edge with one another. Mainly cause when I was younger, he was a really crappy brother with anger issues. He still is a crappy brother with anger issues. So he really didn't care about what was going on with Laura. Whenever a family meetup happens, he and I would ignore each other. I'd ask her if she thinks God is denying her children as punishment for judging and being mean to you. For what you do out comes back by 3. He who is without sin can throw the first stone. And my personal favorite, judge others and ye will be judged. Read it in a book somewhere. Change your Facebook so you have to give permission to be tagged, and block her. She treats you that way so she doesn't get to be in your life outside family functions. I can't believe your family has allowed her to treat you this way for years. How old are you? Why isn't your uncle stepping up for you, your parents? I was raised by my maternal grandmother. To tell a bit of backstory, my grandparents had 4 children total, 3 boys and my mom, the only girl. My grandfather was a good man who genuinely wanted to raise me to keep me away from my mom's behavior and antics, but sadly, my grandfather passed. I have a cousin that's the daughter of my grandma's oldest son and his wife. She is 3 years older than me. Let's call her Q for Queen, because that's what she thinks she is. Q is an only child like me, but was given any and everything she wanted. She has no concept of the real world and how people actually live. My uncle and his wife paid for top-notch elementary, middle, and high schooling, and then paid for 4 years of James Madison University in Harrisburg, Virginia. What always got me is the fact her parents had to pay for her to have the same opportunities that others did, as they had scholarships and things they'd worked for. Q was an average student at best, hasn't used her education at all, and now lives in her mother's basement with her husband. But on to the topic. My father and paternal grandmother were not large people, in either stature or girth. My dad's mom was only 4 feet 5, and my dad was doing good to be over 5'2" with shoes on. Couple that with my own mother not being very tall, and it resulted in me being a whopping 4'11". I've always been a very small, petite person. Often enough, the clothing I purchase has to be altered by hemming or shortening the article if I don't want to be stuck in skinny jeans, as I can stop them from dragging the ground. I also have a lifelong problem of finding shoes. I've often had to get clothing from the big kids section and hate it. My cousin, on the other hand, is a large girl. Her mother is a very tall and broad woman. Genetics. By the time my cousin was 8, she was well over 100 pounds, and her weight continued to climb. My uncle's wife wouldn't hear anything about restricting what my cousin ate or drank, giving her whatever she wanted. She'd also enroll my cousin in activities such as tap dancing and ballerina dancing, both of which she didn't even attempt to participate in. I don't know why my aunt enrolled her. My cousin, from a monetary standpoint, has always been well off, and a lot of her clothing was purchased from high-end brands or handmade, but she was confined to brands that catered to plus-size women, as this was before all companies expanded to cater to women of all sizes. I used to dread holidays or family gatherings, as my cousin would always throw a fit if I received clothing as a gift. I have a great aunt, the wife of my grandma's late brother, who was incredibly close to my grandma and I. Great aunt often gave me clothing from popular brands for Christmas, as well as makeup from companies like Estee Lauder or a gift card to somewhere like Old Navy or The Gap. Great aunt did this because she knew my grandma couldn't afford items like this for me on a regular basis and wanted to help. She'd usually get my cousin something nice, but of lesser value, because, as I've always said and great aunt mentioned in a room full of people, my cousin's parents could afford to give her whatever she wanted. My cousin thought it was unfair that I received clothing from these brands because she herself couldn't wear them due to sizing. My cousin would make statements about it, saying things like it wasn't fair that I got to wear stuff like that, as cousin could afford it but couldn't wear it, and would make direct comments about me being poor and how I should be confined to wear Kmart clothing. My uncle's wife would back Q up, saying I was hurting Q's feelings on purpose, or that it wasn't fair that I had things Q couldn't, due to her size. School was also an issue. I worked for everything I achieved through school, as I knew my grandma didn't have the money to pay my way. In high school, I was accepted into the governor's school on an internship based on academic scores, whereas my uncle and aunt had to pay for Q to go there. I got a job in high school because even though my grandma did receive some money from me, it wasn't enough. I was in AP honor classes through high school, while Q was in basic classes -1 or 2. My uncle would berate my grandma for allowing me to do these things, as it wasn't fair to Q. Thankfully, my grandma knew the sense of entitlement they had and told them so. I have done well in life. My husband and I own a business in the death care industry. Q has not, and will tell anyone who will listen that it's my fault. She and her mother have both tried B and extortion to get money from me, but I've never given in. My aunt tells everyone it's not fair because I was born to fail. Not having proper parents or the financial advantages Q had. My uncle passed away several years ago, and until the day he went, he was still paying Q's way through life. My cousin is pushing 450 plus pounds, and it worries me because I don't want to see her suffer ill health as a consequence of her own actions. This is one of those cases where a person eaten up by jealousy decides to eat everything else. And I say that as a large person who can't wear designer clothes myself, except I don't blame anyone else for it. Your cousin was never taught self-control. That is not your fault. Your cousin has always taken the easy way. Blaming you is easy. Taking control of her own life and responsibility for her own actions is hard, and she's never learned how to do hard. Sucks to be her, and the next time you see her and she starts mouthing off, give her a mirror and tell her, "Cousin, this is the person shoving food down your throat. This is the person who makes you not exercise or eat healthy. This is the person to blame. And until you deal with her, you need to stop blaming everyone else. You are doing good in life. She is jealous because she would never achieve anything. Your cousin is paying the consequences of bad parenting, and that is not your fault. Don't let them be you. You don't owe them anything." My cousin's girlfriend had a baby around the same time I did, which, if you've read my posts, then you know all of this happened many years ago. My child was shunned and unwanted by my family, but my cousin's child was welcomed, even though they were living off the system and the mother was the child of illegal immigrants whom my family protected. As soon as this kid was born, my cousin started asking, then demanding I babysit, because until my son started school, I was a stay-at-home mom while my husband worked. I watched the brat a few times, and he is incorrigible. He is violent, even to this day. He would not listen to me. He would destroy my home and ended up hitting my son in the face with a metal model car. When I told my cousin I wouldn't be watching him anymore, he didn't seem to take me seriously, and even had his dad try to intimidate me into watching the kid. The final straw was my son's birthday, and we had planned on going to a movie. We were getting ready to walk out the door when a vehicle pulled up, and it took me a minute to register who it was. My uncle brought the child to the door along with my cousin's wife, and the exchange went like this. Uncle: "Hello, OP. We're dropping child off for you to watch tonight because we've got somewhere to go." The someone turned out to be my other cousin, the uncle's other son's wedding reception, and because of the child's behavior, they didn't want him there. Me: "I'm sorry, but we're getting ready to leave. I've also told you all that I'm not babysitting him anymore." At this point, I get my son into his coat and my husband comes into the foyer. Husband: "What's going on? Why is Uncle here with the kid?" Uncle: "We need you to watch him for a while." My uncle had already set the kid down in the floor and he was glaring at my kid. Husband: "Nope, we're going to a movie. You'll have to find someone else." Uncle: "Well, take him with you or just don't go." Husband: "No to both of those. We're going now. Please get out of my home and take this kid with you." My uncle is a jerk. He hates people telling him no. My husband and I walked outside with our child, and my husband told my uncle he needed to leave so we could lock the door. My uncle tried walking out of the door, leaving kid inside. Husband: "No. I said we aren't watching him. If you leave him here, I'll call the police for child abandonment because he isn't going with us." My uncle was livid. Uncle: "What is the big deal? We can't take him to this event with us. Just watch him." Again, my husband told him no and that we were leaving. Uncle scooped the kid up and tried to put him in our car, and my husband told him we'd drop him at the police station if he did that. This kid was literally grabbing fistfuls of my uncle's hair and slamming his forehead into the side of my uncle's face. My husband locked the doors once my son and I were inside, then proceeded to lock the front door. We pulled off with Uncle still standing in the driveway. This was back in the day of basic cell phones, and we turned ours off for our movie. I want to say it was The Day After Tomorrow we saw. My cousin and his wife were later investigated by CPS because of their child's behavior, especially when he started school and would violently attack teachers. My cousin's wife did have some words that night. She called us rich and entitled, saying it wasn't fair we treated her little angel like this. She even tried shoving him in on the driver's side when my husband went to get in the car. She would text me for weeks after this, telling me I shouldn't have everything I did and that her kid was more deserving. Edit. Okay, so I'm old and didn't give much back history, so it's led to me being called R. The mother's parents were war criminals that came to the US to hide. They weren't allowed any benefits, but lied on forms. All three were eventually deported, but the child's mother was allowed to re-enter legally after about a year. The grandparents cannot step foot back in the US. Good for you on standing up to your decision. Props to your husband for having your back. Good for you, and good that dear husband had your back. Since your family treat you and your son like crap, I would have cut off that babysitting demands pretty quickly too. You really had nothing to lose. Nowadays, people can text someone and tell them point blank that they are not their nanny and they do not agree to look after their child. Furthermore, should they ever attempt to leave their child, the first call will be to the police to report them for child abandonment. Now with it documented, people can just go straight to the police.